Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Bayer Day during MasBio's Partnering Week. We are very excited to interact with all of you today to hopefully, create, renew, and extend many of our relationships here at the heart of the Massachusetts innovation ecosystem. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Marianne De Backer. I'm the Executive Vice President and Head of Strategy, Business Development and Licensing at Bayer Pharmaceuticals. I'm also a member of the executive committee at Bayer. And I've spent, more than two decades of my career in the life sciences industry, starting with over 10 years in drug discovery research, but also leading a commercial business, leading mergers and acquisitions, deal making and investing, both in Europe and in the United States. And I have been directly accountable for over 200 strategic alliances in the pharma and biotech arena. Most importantly of all of that is that a number of these alliances have led to drugs that are now on the market. And of course, that's what we are here for, really to make a difference for patients. I'm based in Berlin. That's the headquarters of Bayer Pharmaceuticals. But I have spent also many years of my career in the US. Today, I would like to provide you a little bit with an overview of Bayer Pharmaceuticals, in particular, of course, as it relates to external innovation. And later on in the session, we will also hear from two of our collaborators who will share their insights and their experience about, how it is to be working with Bayer. So first of all, our pharmaceuticals division, as you might know, we are over a $17 billion business in revenue, and we are really the world leaders in a number of areas, most notably in the cardiovascular space, also in women's healthcare and in ophthalmology. Our portfolio includes a wide range of products in world-leading pharmaceuticals for a number of different indications, also hematology and radiology, for example. As of 2020, we were a business with over 39,000 employees globally. And as I mentioned, our global headquarters is in Berlin, but we really have offices almost, everywhere in the world. And we will actually be opening a brand new location with focus on cell and gene therapy in Kendall Square later this year. So we're really looking forward to expanding our presence in the heart of the Massachusetts innovation ecosystem. As part of our ongoing transformation in Bayer Pharmaceuticals, we have 5 strategic focus areas. Portfolio and pipeline here is really referring to the areas, our core therapeutic areas where we are really strong. We will be actually launching or in the process of launching 3 new blockbusters, Nubeqa, which is a prostate cancer drug, which is the fruit of an alliance with Orion. We are also in the process of preparing our launch of finerenone, which is a chronic kidney disease target. And our 3rd blockbuster will be elinzanetant, which is a women's healthcare drug for the treatment of vasomotor symptoms in menopause. And that's really the fruit of an acquisition we did last year of Candy Therapeutics. In addition, we're also in the midst of preparing for our launch together with Merck on vericiguat, a drug in the heart failure space. In addition to that, we have a number of new therapeutic areas and new areas in which we have a lot of focus, digital health, cell and gene therapy, oncology, and we are significantly expanding our footprint in China, where we are already one of the 3 top multinational players, and also in the United States. Core to everything we are really doing is external innovation. That is really what is going to drive the replenishment and the acceleration of the growth of our pipeline, and in addition also increasing our access to new modalities. Now, let me go into a little bit more detail about what we mean with external innovation. So during the course of my presentation, I will be covering a little bit what we do in open innovation, also in LEAPS, and then specifically what my team is focusing on in the business development and licensing space. So, as you undoubtedly know, we are living in incredibly exciting times, and we see at the same time a biological and a technological revolution converging as we speak. And at Bayer, we want to absolutely be at the forefront of this innovation wave. We have already last year set that in motion. Last year, we entered into 25 partnerships across a wide variety of areas. And that deal flow for Bayer Pharmaceuticals was really unprecedented. As I said, it was really widespread in a spectrum from, doing equity investments through LEAPs over, collaborations combined with LEAPs investments, such as we did with Recursion last year. We entered in a number of licensing agreements, such as with Atara and Systems Oncology. We entered into commercial partnerships in China. And we also acquired two billion-dollar companies, one being Candy Therapeutics and the other one being a leading player in the gene therapy space, AskBio. And this year, in 2021, we want to continue to build upon that elan and explore further partnerships in, again, cell and gene therapy space, where we absolutely, have built the initial blocks to be a leader in the space. In our core therapeutic areas, as I mentioned, we are world leading in cardiovascular, in women's healthcare, in ophthalmology, and then further build, our capabilities in oncology, in digital, and also in China. I view our activities as it relates to mergers and acquisitions as a way to really leapfrog in new fields, and at the same time give the companies that we acquire a competitive advantage. So I just want to point out that we put a lot of emphasis and give a lot of thought about how we want to shape win-win partnerships. And to give you just one example, in the case of both BlueRock, which we acquired in 2019, and AskBio, which we acquired last year, we really keep those companies at arm's length in our companies. And we make sure that, the innovators and the leaders that have made these companies successful can continue to innovate with a lot of independence. And at the same time, we bring really the best of Bayer and our strong capabilities in chemistry, in product supply, in therapeutic area knowledge to bear to help those companies be successful. Now, if you look at what we achieved last year, we were ranked at the top of M&A transactions in a number of different surveys. And again, that was really unprecedented for Bayer. I don't need to tell you that, all the biotechs have more options than ever before to access capital, to stay independent longer. There's so many sources of funding these days, IPOs and SPACs and so on. So as a corporate buyer, we do understand that we need to bring something more to the table, and we want to really build relationships with potential partners early. And as I mentioned, we do want to offer more than just capital. As I mentioned, we do that through really thinking about flexible deal structures, as we did with BlueRock and AskBio. And we also want to focus on, being flexible in our deal making, being very agile, and to be able to deliver deals with speed. To give you one example, in the acquisition of AskBio last year, from non-binding offer to a signed agreement took us 6 weeks. So we really understand that, we're acting in a competitive environment, and we do want to let all our partners or potential partners know that we take partnering very seriously, and we try to act very agile and with a lot of speed and flexibility. So now I want to turn the attention a little bit to our corporate investment arm, LEAPS. So LEAPS is really a fantastic instrument for us to access and to fund potentially disruptive technologies. It's very complementary to our divisional activities. It's an investment arm, an impact investment arm of Bayer overall. So it's really operates across the 3 Bayer divisions, and it really aims to disrupt existing businesses and really find that very early innovation, before it might be mature for us to already enter into partnerships on. As I mentioned, it perfectly complements the internal R&D activities and our business development activities. And it has a really ambition to encourage the divisions such as pharma to embark on really disruptive technologies down the road. To give you one example, Leaps, together with Versant, founded BlueRock in 2016. And after a couple of years of maturation in 2019, as Bayer Pharmaceuticals, we acquired BlueRock as a full company. So it's a real excellent tool to incubate innovation for us. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also very interesting, I think, for innovators. For example, in the deal that we did with Recursion last year, which was an artificial intelligence deal, drug discovery finding for fibrosis. And we combined there an equity investment with a research collaboration, which is, of course, really powerful and sometimes really what innovators are looking for. Last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about our open innovation initiatives. So our open innovation arm focuses on really building academic partnerships, really translating those partnerships and that early innovation that we find in academia to pipeline products and to solutions that will have a patient impact. Open innovation also really helps with the building of ecosystems in a number of different innovation hotspots. And of course, the Boston and Cambridge one is a very important one in that regard. And it also looks for innovative ways to engage into the ecosystem. I believe we are the only company in the Boston ecosystem with 2 joint labs, one being with Broad on precision cardiology, and one with Mass General Brigham on COPD. And what we do in those joint labs is really bringing together FTEs, people from the Institute and people from Bayer, and really, allow them to work together as if it was really, one joint team aiming to tackle an important challenge in the healthcare space. So it's really all about co-creation and try to work with individual investigators in academia and really try to come up with new ideas. And sometimes, as I mentioned before, those new ideas lead to new companies that we then can create together with our impact investment arm, Leaps. With that, I would like to turn it to, just mentioning again very briefly that we're going to be talking to 2 of our very valued collaborators in a couple of minutes. So one that I wanted to point out is Brigham and Women's Hospital and Massachusetts General Hospital. So we have a collaboration there, as I mentioned, really joint labs where we try to really bring the forces together of academia and really innovative science that is happening there and early models with the knowledge that Bayer brings of certain therapeutic areas and disease spaces, and jointly work to find new solutions for patients. And then finally, we are also going to hear a little bit more about our cell and gene therapy. One of our cell and gene therapy players, BlueRock, we are extremely convinced that cell and gene therapy will spark an entirely new wave of innovation, and not just innovation, but real products getting to patients in the years to come. This is going to be a very significant commercial opportunity. It is expected that more than 25 new cell and gene therapies will hit the market just in a couple of years from now. And we have committed within Bayer to be absolutely a leader in this space As I mentioned to you, we have done that through the acquisition of AskBio, being the nucleus for gene therapy. We have also entered into partnerships with Atara, for example, to access CAR T therapy for oncology. We have entered into a number of partnerships in the gene editing space. And then last but not least, and we will hear a little bit more about that, we have BlueRock, which is really our nucleus for iPSC-based cell therapies. And we will hear more about that in the next session. So BlueRock is really a leading player in the engineered cell therapy space. It aims to harness the power of cells for new medicines across a number of different therapeutic areas, be it neurology or cardiology or immunology indications. And one of the leading programs that has just entered into the clinic is an iPSC-based therapy for the generation of dopaminergic neurons that allow us to treat Parkinson's disease. Finally, the aim for all the work we do on a daily basis is, of course, to make a fundamental difference for patients. We at Bayer really aim to address areas of very high unmet medical need. We see such an incredible opportunity, as I mentioned, through the bio-revolution, through the technology revolution, and those, two converging at this moment in time. We think it's really allowing us to tackle a lot of unmet need in a totally different way, and allow us to, previously undruggable targets or, diseases that were very difficult to find solutions for. We can now really we now really believe we can make a difference. I would now like to welcome Kim Davidson, our Head of External Activation and Identity Management, who will moderate the next session.
Thank you so much, Mariana, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Seth Ettenberg, PhD, Chief Scientific Officer of BlueRock, and Chris Coburn, Chief Innovation Officer from Mass General Brigham, to join us for this next part of our conversation. We want to look into what's necessary for a successful collaboration. First, I'll let Seth and Chris introduce themselves, who they are, and their roles.
Hi, this is Seth Ettenberg, Chief Scientific Officer at BlueRock Therapeutics. My role as a Chief Scientific Officer is to help in the execution of our vision to bring cell therapy to cure degenerative and regenerative diseases in unmet medical need. And with that comes along the ability to move our company strategically through new areas of biology as well as drug discovery.
I am Chris Coburn. I'm Chief Innovation Officer for Mass General Brigham. We're the system that consists of Mass General, Brigham and Women, Mass Pioneer, McLean Psychiatric Hospital, and a whole set of other elements. My team is about 140 folks, and we principally are focused on business development, building the relationships that allow the technologies developed by our Harvard faculty to get out through corporate partners and ultimately to the benefit of patients worldwide.
Excellent. That's what we're all here for. Thanks so much, Seth and Chris, for those intros. I'd like to ask all of you the following question, because you're all coming from very different perspectives. What characteristics or qualities are you looking for in a collaborator? And Chris, could you please start?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Strategic collaboration is a major priority for us in the system and the growing one. So we're very committed to finding and working effectively with highly motivated partners. When you ask what are the characteristics of a successful partner, I would say first and foremost, they're in it for the long haul. Working in a collaborative environment can be complex. It's, by definition, you're pursuing things that you could not achieve on your own. So, one needs to plan and anticipate for that. I think a great test of the how to make the collaboration work is each partner should be able to define what the priorities are of the other partner. So you should know your own organization and know it well, but you should also have a depth of insight into your partner's organization. I can run down a lot of other characteristics that we've worked on. I would say we find a Bayer to be among the most knowledgeable and resourceful of all the partners we work with across pharmaceutical, device, diagnostics, and information technology.
It's great to hear. Seth, can you share some of your insights?
Yeah, sure. I think there's probably a few key elements, and the first one is having complementary expertise that can help each other, that are aligned for the same common end goal, which then goes into timing and getting over obstacles that are naturally going to happen both in science or drug development. And so, where Blue Rock believes it brings forward a industrial manufacturing of cell therapy, we can't cover and know and have deep expertise in every possible cell biology. And so we're often looking for that really deep 20-year veteran expertise in our academic collaborators or in our other industrial collaborators. And then I think there's just core values that we live by that we look for in our partners, and to share those equally, which would be being courageous to go after sort of unknown problems. Integrity, I think that's obvious and clearly why integrity is involved in any relationship. And then the other one is urgency, and that is to bring forward drugs to patients now. Even just the hope of the work is important to patients now, but then delivering on that hope.
And Mariana, do you want to share the Bayer perspective?
Yeah, I must say, Chris and Seth already really said it all. I mean, in the end, it's all about, having this common goal of translating innovation in something that is really going to mean something for a patient, and having that sense of urgency to come up with that innovation. Being able to trust one another, have common values, and then of course, for Bayer, it's really important for those partnerships to be in the areas of our core strategic focus, as we mentioned before. It could be in our core therapeutic areas like cardiovascular, women's healthcare, ophthalmology, or in one of our areas where we're really driving the future innovation, like in cell and gene therapy, oncology, digital. But we're really looking for partners that have, that same mindset of wanting to make a difference for patients, and bringing our complementary capabilities together, be able to do that faster and better, hopefully.
A lot of similar themes for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And Seth, you have an interesting perspective. Can you talk about how you maintain your biotech speed and mentality within a larger pharma environment?
Yeah, I have to say that it's the model itself that attracted me to the relationship between Blue Rock and Bayer. Having worked in both settings in my past careers, either in a large pharmaceutical company or as a second employee and a founding member of a biotech company, what's offered at Blue Rock actually is the best of both of those worlds from my perspective, meaning being able to see the long game in drug development all the way through to commercialization, and making those investments even sometimes ahead of your ability to predict those investments, as well as to have the nimble nature to move quickly as the data comes out from your preclinical experiments, to move very quickly into the clinic. And what we've been afforded at Blue Rock through the relationship with Bayer is an arm's length sort of independence to our overseeing our daily operations and our strategic initiatives. And that's really important when it comes to areas where we're working in an art form that's a bit unknown still. So in induced pluripotent stem cells, we're doing things that no one's done before in the world, and we need to be able to react to the science and to move quickly and to lead with with those intentions. And having a partner that sort of allows us and trusts us to be able to be the scientists and the artists that we are has been a key element. But that doesn't come, and that comes with the ability to it's often referred to in the Bayer model as a pull method, which means that when we have a desire or we need help in an area of expertise where Bayer has spent centuries working on in a disease area, and Marianne mentioned earlier cardiovascular disease, which is one of our focused areas. There is a plethora of knowledge. There's a just a wealth of individuals that have been involved in that drug development space that we just don't have as a new biotech. And that relationship is really important for us.
Excellent. And Chris, you're coming from a different perspective because academia, of course, has a wealth of knowledge. What are some of the differences working with a big pharma company compared to your other academic partners?
Well, thanks, Kim. Thank you for that question. I would say, just to start with, obviously, we're a hospital system. We're organized to treat patients, to do research, to educate. And we always have to remind ourselves, we are in a different sector than our corporate partners, and we need to be thoughtful about that. No hospital, no university was per se organized for commercial outcomes. So consequently, when you approach a collaboration with a corporate entity, you need to appreciate that. There was a book written by a Cambridge Don in the middle of the last century called The Two Cultures by C.P. Snow. And it really, in looking at similar but somewhat different categories, drew out how these worlds rotate around different core issues. So for us, it's essential that we understand those cultural differences and work actively to align ourselves. The final thing I would say is it's also a dynamic environment, particularly when we talk about gene and cell therapy. The traditional roles played by manufacturers, by academic centers are evolving, as Seth has said, in this brand new landscape. So, it's important for us to be as nimble as we can be with 80,000 employees as we approach these kind of relationships.
Thanks for that. And one reoccurring theme that we're all talking about is new and exciting and disruptive technologies. So this question is for all of you. What disruptive technologies besides cell and gene therapy are you currently watching? So Mariana, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, if we can't talk about cell and gene therapies, which are obviously of very high interest to us, and maybe I don't know if you would pull it into the same bucket, but we are, of course, all, watching the mRNA technology platform space, because that has opened up such an incredible opportunity for us to, as an industry, right, to develop vaccines at a totally different pace than we were able to do before. And that allows us now to protect so many more people across the globe. In addition, because at Bayer we have such a strong focus on digital, as I mentioned, we are very interested in looking at, what we call the digital transformation of the way we do research and the way we do drug development. So our collaborations, as we entered into last year, with Recursion, which is using AI and machine learning to identify new drugs to treat fibrotic diseases. We're certainly looking for more that type of innovation. And in addition, at the same time, we're looking at, digital technologies that allow us to come up with new business models, such as, when we did a partnership last year with OneDrop, which really allows you to look at, an integrated care model for patients that employs, also digital technologies. So in that space, we are really watching it all very, very closely. Besides that, and again, maybe too close to cell and gene therapy, but we are watching everything that is happening in vivo gene editing with great interest as well.
Chris?
Sure. Just really picking up on Marianne's comments. First of all, obviously, gene and cell therapy is an immensely broad field, and we also view gene editing as being part of that. So, when you talk about things to be excited about, the various elements are as game-changing as anything that's happened over the last quarter century or more. Similar for us when you talk about digital and AI, maybe to just add a little bit to what Marianne said. I think the acquisition and curation of large amounts of data, patient data, that can inform not just discovery, but management of care, those are significant and still kind of revealing themselves for the power that they're going to bring. We have a very large AI center. We're trying to work increasingly more collaboratively around our patient data resources, and how we can work with partners, including pharma, on uncovering insights that might not have been available. And then finally, remote care, can't go without talking about that. A couple of weeks before the pandemic hit, we had about 2,000 remote care engagements a month. 3 weeks after the pandemic took hold, we had 250,000 in that month. So, life has changed, and of course it'll ebb back, but it'll never be the same. So the combination of all these technologies, including their ability, as Marianne said, to support drug development, is going to completely remake the environment that we all live in.
Yeah, so I think whenever I get this question, it's important to restate. The reason I never give stock advice to family is because if you think I can predict what's going to happen next in science, then I probably can sell you some shares as well. But my point would be that it's not about knowing what's next. It's a state of mind about taking in new data that comes, that moves us and shifts us into thinking what wasn't possible is now possible. And rather than give you a specific area, I'll tell you an area that I'm keeping my personal eyes open, which is in any therapeutics, the ability to change the programming of a cell without a footprint. And there are many technologies that are coming forward like this, where we're not gene editing per se, we're not disrupting the genome itself, which in its own is a scary endeavor and permanent. But there are lots of technologies that are coming that are looking to change the ability of the cells in our body, either by small molecule or by RNA interference or by other methods that allow us to do different things to those cells in a therapeutic manner. And I think for me, that potentially changes a lot of what we think about and what we can do in medicine. But again, it's more of a state of mind, being ready for those next things, than it is actually knowing what that next thing will be.
I think all of your answers basically speak to everything that we've witnessed our industry experience over the last year and a half now, almost, right? So it's speed and also being able to prepare accordingly. And then, as you mentioned, Seth, the mindset. So I loved all those answers. Thank you. Now I'd like to give both Seth and Chris an opportunity to ask Mariana any questions that they have.
We think that Bayer has 68 academic alliances. And the most important question is, which is number one? We certainly aspire to
be, this is a leading question, Chris.
We aspire to be Bayer's best corporate academic partner. And, we approach that with humility. We always know we can be better. But seriously, our relationship is an enormous priority for us. And we hope when people are back at Leverkusen and they say to each other how wonderful working with Mass General Brigham is.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And of course, of all our academic partnerships, we have to say that, all our kids are equally beautiful, right? But we do very much appreciate, obviously, the collaboration, and we're looking forward to what's going to come out of it that, again, is going to be relevant for patients down the road.
Beth, did you have any burning questions?
No, I think unlike Chris, it's a little closer to home to ask these questions, but I guess what I would say to you, Marianne, is getting your thoughts on how Bayer is repositioning into the cell and gene therapy field is, of course, of front and center to many of us, and we've made lots of bold statements there. I wonder if you could just reflect on the current sort of marketplace of making that. So there's all kinds of activities and technologies. When you think about that, what has to happen in the larger field to keep supporting the endeavor?
Yeah, I think, if you look at what we did last year, we've come a long way, right? I mean, we talked actually earlier about the fact that, when we acquired BlueRock in 2019, that was sort of the first nucleus, right? Which was going to bring in an iPSC-based platform that will allow us to, enter into a number of different diseases. And then, last year, as we put together our overall cell and gene therapy strategy, as you know, this actually was quite a significant endeavor, and we sort of boiled the ocean and we looked at everything we could be doing in this space. And then we really zoomed in on, what are really the platforms and the areas where we want to become a leading player and where we really think we can make a difference. And that led to the acquisition of AskBio, which is, of course, one of the leading players and pioneers in the field. And with the acquisition of AskBio, we now have a nucleus of an AAV-based platform that allows us, again, to move in a number of different therapeutic areas and immediately gives us access to a number of clinical stage assets. So beyond, BlueRock and AskBio, I mean, we then said, look, I mean, we have not initially been present in the autologous CAR T field, but we really believe that the future in CAR T and for oncology is allogeneic. So we have sort of set a first step into that space by entering into the collaboration with Atara, which allows us to target mesothelin-based solid tumors through a hopefully allogeneic approach. And that, we will continue to build in that space. And then finally, we talked about gene editing, and I agree with you. I mean, of course, we have a number of collaborations already where we are using CRISPR-Cas-based technologies. We're looking at other ones where we could be using, technologies in vivo. And then there's a whole epigenetic and non-modifying space that, as you rightly pointed out, is very attractive. But we really try to work across those 4 pillars, which we have set ourselves to be sort of the core of our strategy in cell and gene therapy. And what we also, from a business development perspective, really find very important is that we keep a very flexible and open mind as to what these partnerships could look like, right? It could be these arm's length, acquisitions, as it is the case with BlueRock and AskBio, or it could be licensing deals as with Atara, or it could be totally different things, joint labs or whatever structure we want to do. Just, we try to focus on what it is that we really want to achieve across, accessing platforms and really, driving, a difference in diseases where, up to now there has been so little promise, right? So, that's a little bit in a nutshell. But there's a lot of work to be done, even though I think last year we made some very important strides.
Thanks for sharing.
So thank you so much for an intriguing and eye-opening conversation, Mariana, Seth, and Chris. Really appreciate that you took the time to have this discussion with us a bit on collaboration and sharing your insights and aspects. Now I invite everyone to head over to the booth so you can learn more from our experts. Thank you.